Sarah's hand trembled as she slid the note across the bar to Jack, her employee of 3 years and the single father she'd secretly admired from afar. "Tabs on me if you take me home," she'd whispered moments earlier, the alcohol emboldening her to cross a line she'd sworn never to approach. What she hadn't told him, couldn't tell him, was that tomorrow she would be signing papers to sell the company to investors who planned to eliminate his entire department. Tonight might be her only chance to confess everything before his life imploded. Jack stared at his boss in disbelief, the amber whiskey forgotten between his fingers. Sarah Matthews, CEO of Horizon Technologies, his direct superior, and the woman who held his financial future in her manicured hands, had just propositioned him in the dimly lit corner of O'Malley's. His son's medical bills were piling up at home, and he'd already received 2 warnings about his late arrivals after dropping Ethan at school. One wrong move with Sarah could cost him everything: his job, his reputation, and the stability he'd fought to maintain for his 8-year-old son since his wife's death. Yet something in her ice-blue eyes suggested this wasn't just about desire, there was desperation there, maybe even fear. "Why tonight, Sarah?" he asked, his voice barely audible above the bar's ambient noise. 3 years of professional distance, and suddenly you're buying my drinks and asking me home? What aren't you telling me? The question hung between them, charged with unspoken tension. Little did he know that across town, corporate lawyers were finalizing documents that would reshape both their futures by this time tomorrow. If you're enjoying this story so far, give it a like to let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, ***. Sarah's perfectly composed facade cracked slightly as she tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "Maybe I'm tired of pretending," she said, but her eyes darted toward her designer handbag where the acquisition papers waited for her signature. The truth was far more complicated than simple attraction. The company her father had built was drowning in debt, and the vultures circling with their checkbooks had made one thing clear. The bloated middle management had to go. Jack's department would be the first casualty. Pretending what exactly? Jack challenged, leaning closer. The familiar scent of her perfume, something expensive with notes of jasmine, clouded his judgment. He'd always found her beautiful, of course. Anyone with eyes could see that Sarah Matthews was stunning, with her tailored suits that accentuated her perfect figure and the confident way she commanded a boardroom. But he'd buried those thoughts deep, knowing the professional boundary between them was one he couldn't afford to cross. Not as a single dad whose entire world revolved around providing stability for Ethan. "That I don't see you," she whispered, her fingers brushing against his on the bar top. "That I don't notice how you're always the first to volunteer for overtime when someone needs to cover a shift, even though I know it means finding a sitter for Ethan. That I don't admire how you've rebuilt your life after losing your wife." The genuine emotion in her voice surprised even her. This wasn't part of her plan. She'd intended to give him one perfect night before everything fell apart, a selfish attempt to ease her guilt. She hadn't expected the rush of feelings that came with finally acknowledging the attraction she'd suppressed for years. Jack's phone buzzed with a text from his sister, "Ethan's fever is back. 101.2. Should I take him to urgent care?" Reality crashed back into the moment, shattering whatever spell had been building between them. "I have to go," he said, already calculating the cost of another medical visit they couldn't afford. "Ethan's sick again." Sarah's hand closed around his wrist with surprising strength. "Let me drive you," she said, and something in her tone made it clear this wasn't just about tonight anymore. "Please, Jack. There's something I need to tell you, and I'm running out of time. This story is just getting started. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this, ***. The drive to Jack's modest suburban home was tense with unspoken words. Sarah's knuckles were white on the steering wheel of her luxury sedan, while Jack made rapid-fire calls to arrange for his sister to take Ethan to the pediatric urgent care center. When they finally pulled into his driveway, the front door flew open, and Jack's sister emerged with a pale, pajama-clad Ethan in her arms. His breathing's getting worse, she said, the worry evident in her voice. I was just about to call you again. What happened next stunned Jack into silence. Sarah stepped forward, her CEO persona taking command of the situation. I know the chief of pediatrics at Mercy General, she said, already dialing on her phone. They'll be expecting you. Take my car, it's faster. She tossed her keys to Jack's sister without hesitation, then turned to Jack. Go with them. I'll call a car and meet you there. As Jack climbed into the back seat with his son, cradling the boy's feverish body against his chest, he caught Sarah's expression through the window, a mixture of determination and something that looked strangely like guilt. What was she hiding? And why did it feel like tonight was about much more than an impulsive proposition in a bar? 3 hours later, with Ethan stabilized and sleeping in a private hospital room that Sarah had somehow arranged with a few phone calls, Jack found her alone in the waiting area, staring at documents spread across her lap. When she looked up, her eyes were red-rimmed, her perfect composure finally broken. I was going to tell you tonight, she said, gathering the papers with trembling hands. The company's being sold. Tomorrow, I sign these, and next week, they'll eliminate your entire department. 42 jobs, including yours. The words tumbled out in a rush, as if saying them quickly might somehow lessen their impact. I tried to negotiate protection for your team, but they wouldn't budge. The decision was made weeks ago. Jack felt the floor shift beneath him. His job, the stability he'd carefully constructed for Ethan after losing his wife, was about to disappear. So tonight at the bar. What was that? A pity proposition? One last hurrah before you ruined my life? The bitterness in his voice surprised even him. Sarah flinched as if he'd struck her. No. God, no. It was. I don't know what it was. Selfish, probably. I've watched you for 3 years, Jack. Admired you from a distance. Tonight, knowing what was coming, I just couldn't keep pretending anymore. She looked away, her profile sharp against the harsh hospital lighting. I never meant for any of this to happen. If this story is resonating with you, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below, ***. What exactly didn't you mean to happen? Jack demanded, his voice low to avoid disturbing the few other families scattered throughout the waiting area. Developing feelings for an employee? Selling the company your father built? Or waiting until the last possible moment to warn me that my son's medical care is about to become completely unaffordable? The anger felt good. Cleaner than the confusion and attraction still simmering beneath it. Sarah's shoulders straightened, a glimpse of the formidable CEO returning. All of it. None of it. I don't know anymore. She gestured to the papers. The company's been in trouble for years. My father left me a legacy that was already failing when I took over. I've been working 80-hour weeks trying to save it, but the debt. She trailed off, then met his eyes directly. I fought for your department until the end. That's why I was at O'Malley's tonight. I just lost the final negotiation. Jack sank into the chair beside her, the adrenaline of the evening finally catching up to him. And what was your plan? Seduce me, then break the news over breakfast that I should start updating my resume? A flash of hurt crossed her face before she masked it. There was no plan, Jack. For once in my life, I wasn't thinking strategically. I saw you sitting there, and I just wanted something real before everything fell apart. The vulnerability in her admission hung between them, unexpected and raw. Before Jack could respond, a doctor appeared in the doorway. Mr. Sullivan? Your son is asking for you. Jack stood immediately, but hesitated, caught between his responsibility to Ethan and the unfinished conversation with Sarah. She made the decision for him, gathering her papers and standing as well. Go to him. We can talk later. There might not be a later, Jack said quietly. Not if I'm about to lose my job. Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a business card, scribbling something on the back before pressing it into his hand. This is my personal number. Not my assistant's line that you have from work. Call me tomorrow, after I've signed these papers. There's something else I need to tell you. The cryptic statement left Jack staring after her as she walked away, her confident stride at odds with the emotional turmoil he'd glimpsed. What more could there possibly be? And why did it feel like his world was simultaneously falling apart and rearranging into something new? Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying this emotional journey. More stories like this coming soon, ***. When Jack entered Ethan's hospital room, his son's small face lit up despite the oxygen cannula and 4-line. Dad! Did you see? I got the cool room with the space pictures, he exclaimed, pointing to the constellation decals on the ceiling. Jack forced a smile, pushing aside his turmoil to focus on what mattered most. Pretty awesome, buddy. How are you feeling? He sat on the edge of the bed, brushing Ethan's dark hair from his forehead, a gesture that always reminded him painfully of his late wife, who had made the same movement countless times before cancer took her. Better. The nice lady said I could have ice cream when I wake up tomorrow. Ethan's eyes were already drooping with medication. Is she your girlfriend? She looks like a princess. Jack froze. What nice lady, Eth? Your boss. The pretty one from your work picture. Ethan yawned. She came in before you. Said she was going to make sure we were okay. Jack's mind raced. Sarah had visited Ethan while he was in the waiting room? What had she told him? And what had she meant about making sure they were okay? The questions multiplied as Ethan drifted off to sleep, his breathing finally even and unlabored. Outside the room, Jack found a nurse updating charts. Excuse me, the woman who was here earlier, blonde, designer suit, did she say anything before she left? The nurse nodded. Ms. Matthews? She arranged for all of your son's medical expenses to be covered under the hospital's compassionate care program. Quite insistent about it, actually. Said to tell you not to worry about the bills. She smiled. Must be nice having friends in high places. Jack leaned against the wall, stunned. Sarah had used her connections to cover Ethan's medical care that would have been financially devastating without insurance, especially if he was about to lose his job. Why would she do that after delivering such devastating news? The contradiction made his head spin. When he checked his phone, there was a text from an unknown number. The car will wait as long as you need it. I've instructed the hospital to call me if you or Ethan need anything. I'm sorry for everything, Jack. Not just the company. Everything. It was nearly dawn when Jack finally dozed off in the uncomfortable chair beside Ethan's bed, Sarah's business card still clutched in his hand, her personal number now programmed into his phone. His dreams were a confused jumble of boardrooms and bar counters, of Sarah's ice-blue eyes and the weight of papers that would change his future. He woke to his phone buzzing with another text from Sarah's number, papers signed. It's done. But I need to see you. There's a position I fought for. It's yours if you want it. If you're on the edge of your seat, drop a like and let me know in the comments what you think will happen next, ***. Jack stared at the message, conflicting emotions warring within him. A job offer now, after everything? Was this guilt, attraction, or something else entirely? He typed and deleted 3 different responses before simply writing, Ethan's being discharged at noon. Meet me at the coffee shop across the street at 1. The reply came instantly, I'll be there. The morning passed in a blur of discharge papers and care instructions. Ethan's condition had improved dramatically overnight, and the doctors were confident he could recover at home with the right medications. Jack's sister arrived to take Ethan home, giving Jack a knowing look when he explained he had a meeting. With your boss? The one who arranged all this? She asked, gesturing around the private room. Ethan said she was pretty. And that she knew Mom's favorite song. Jack frowned. What? He said she hummed it while she thought he was sleeping. That lullaby Anna always sang. His sister studied his face. Jack, who is this woman really? It was a question Jack couldn't answer, not yet. The Sarah Matthews he thought he knew, the brilliant, sometimes ruthless CEO who had taken over her father's struggling company at 28 and fought to keep it afloat, was at odds with the woman who had propositioned him in a bar, covered his son's medical expenses, and apparently knew details about his late wife that he'd never shared at work. At precisely 1 p.m., Jack pushed open the door to the coffee shop and spotted Sarah immediately. She'd exchanged her power suit for jeans and a simple blouse, her blonde hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. Without her usual armor of designer labels and perfect makeup, she looked younger, more vulnerable, and somehow even more beautiful. She stood when she saw him, uncertainty flashing across her face before she composed herself. How's Ethan? Better. Going home with my sister. Jack sat across from her, studying her face. You visited him last night. Hummed my late wife's favorite lullaby. How did you know that song? Sarah's composure faltered. I didn't know it was her favorite. It's the one my mother used to sing to me. She looked down at her untouched coffee. Jack, there's something I need to tell you, and it's going to sound crazy. But after everything that's happened, I can't keep it to myself anymore. Jack waited, watching as she gathered her courage. Whatever was coming, he sensed it would change everything between them, again. The job I mentioned, she began, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. It's not with Horizon. The company's gone, sold as of this morning. But I've been planning my exit strategy for months, ever since I realized I couldn't save my father's legacy. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. I'm starting my own company. Smaller, more focused. And I want you to run the technical division. Jack opened the folder to find business plans, projections, and a contract with his name already printed on it. The salary figure made his eyes widen. This is generous. Too generous. It's what you're worth, Sarah said simply. What you've always been worth, though Horizon could never pay it. I've watched your work for 3 years, Jack. You're brilliant. And more importantly, you care. About the products, about your team, about doing things right. She hesitated. But that's not the only reason I want you with me on this. This story is building to something big. Like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss the conclusion, ***. What's the other reason? Jack asked, though something in her expression told him he already knew. Sarah took a deep breath. 6 months ago, I found a letter in my father's personal files. It was from your wife, Anna. Written just before she died. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. She and my father knew each other. More than knew each other, actually. They were friends from college who reconnected at a conference the year before she got sick. Jack stared at the envelope, his heart pounding. Anna never mentioned knowing Robert Matthews. She wouldn't have. Their connection was complicated. Sarah pushed the envelope toward him. She asked him to look out for you and Ethan if anything happened to her. To give you opportunities, but make them seem earned, not given out of pity. My father hired you at Horizon 3 months after she passed away. The revelation hit Jack like a physical blow. His job, the lifeline that had kept him afloat during the darkest period of his life, hadn't been earned through his resume or interview skills. It had been arranged by his dying wife through an old friend. Why are you telling me this now? Sarah's eyes were steady on his. Because I need you to know that the job I'm offering isn't charity or guilt or attraction, though I won't deny that's part of it. It's because you deserve it. Because I've seen your work firsthand, regardless of how you got in the door. She paused. And because I'm tired of secrets between us. Jack's mind raced, connecting dots he'd never seen before. The unexpected promotion last year when Ethan had needed surgery. The flexible schedule he'd been granted without question. The way Sarah had always seemed to know when he was struggling, offering solutions that appeared just when he needed them most. Had all of it been orchestrated? How long have you known about this? He asked, his voice tight with emotion. About the letter? 6 months. About you? From the moment my father hired you. Sarah's fingers traced the rim of her coffee cup. He made me promise to watch over your career when he got sick. I didn't understand why until I found Anna's letter. By then, I'd already. She trailed off, color rising in her cheeks. Already what? Jack pressed. Already fallen for you, she admitted quietly. Not because of any promise or obligation. Because of who you are. How you parent Ethan. How you lead your team. How you never gave up even when everything was falling apart around you. Her eyes met his, unflinching despite her vulnerability. Last night at the bar wasn't just guilt or impulse. It was 3 years of feelings I couldn't express because I was your boss. If this emotional revelation is touching your heart, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Jack sat back, overwhelmed. The woman he'd admired from a professional distance. Sometimes resented for her seemingly cold business decisions, had been carrying not only the burden of a failing company but also a promise to his late wife. And somewhere in the midst of that, she developed feelings for him that mirrored his own unacknowledged attraction. I don't know what to say, he admitted. This is a lot. Sarah nodded, composing herself. You don't have to say anything now. The job offer stands regardless of whatever this is between us. She gestured vaguely between them. Take the letter. Read it. Think about everything. I'll be in town for another week before I move to the new headquarters in Seattle. Seattle. Another revelation. Another decision. Jack's head was spinning. What about Ethan? He asked, the practical question grounding him amid the emotional chaos. His doctors are here. His school. My sister. Sarah's expression softened. The job can be remote until Ethan finishes the school year. After that. She hesitated. There's an excellent children's hospital in Seattle affiliated with the one here. I've already checked. And the schools in the neighborhood where I've been looking at office space are among the best in the country. She flushed slightly. I've done my research. I wanted to be prepared, just in case. Just in case he said yes. Just in case there could be something between them beyond professional boundaries and secret promises. The thoroughness of her planning touched him in unexpected ways. You've thought of everything, he said softly. Not everything, she replied, a hint of her usual confidence returning. I didn't plan on propositioning you in a bar and then ending up in a hospital all night. Some CEO I am. The unexpected humor broke the tension, and Jack found himself laughing despite everything. I don't know. Seems like an effective negotiation strategy to me. Her answering smile transformed her face, revealing the woman behind the executive facade. Is it working? Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying this story. More content like this coming soon. Before Jack could answer, his phone buzzed with a text from his sister, Ethan asking for you. And his princess friend. His words, not mine. Jack showed Sarah the message, watching as emotion flickered across her face. He made quite an impression on you, he observed. He's an amazing kid, she said simply. Just like his father. The compliment warmed him in ways he hadn't expected. I should go to him. Sarah nodded, gathering her things. Of course. Family first, always. She stood, then hesitated. Jack, whatever you decide about the job, about us. I want you to know that I'll make sure you and Ethan are taken care of. Not out of obligation or promises, but because, she stopped, seeming to search for the right words. Because, he prompted. Because some connections matter more than business deals or professional boundaries. Her voice was soft but certain. What I felt last night at the bar wasn't new. It wasn't impulsive. It was just the first time I let myself acknowledge it. As they walked out of the coffee shop together, Jack found himself at a crossroads he hadn't anticipated when he'd spotted his boss sitting alone at O'Malley's the night before. The future he'd carefully planned. Stable job, familiar routine, predictable path, had been upended. In its place was uncertainty, possibility, and the unexpected chance at something he'd convinced himself he'd never find again after losing Anna. "Come with me," he said suddenly, the decision crystallizing as he spoke. "Come see Ethan. Then we can talk about Seattle and jobs and everything else." Sarah's eyes widened with surprise and something that looked like hope. "Are you sure?" Jack wasn't sure of anything except the feeling that had been growing since their conversation at the bar, that beneath the professional relationship and complicated history was something worth exploring. "No," he admitted. "But I think Anna would want me to find out." 3 days later, Jack stood in his living room, watching through the window as Sarah pushed Ethan on the backyard swing set. His son's laughter floated through the open window, punctuated by Sarah's encouraging words as he demanded to go higher, higher. The letter from Anna lay open on the coffee table, its contents still sending aftershocks through his understanding of the past 3 years. Jack, his late wife had written in her familiar, flowing script, "If you're reading this, Robert has kept his promise. Trust him, and his daughter Sarah. They're good people who understand what matters. Don't close yourself off to possibilities because you're afraid of more loss. You and Ethan deserve happiness, whatever form it takes. If this story has touched your heart, please like and share it with others who might need this message of hope and new beginnings." How had Anna known? How had she anticipated that he would retreat into work and routine, using Ethan as both purpose and excuse to avoid emotional connections? The insight was so characteristic of her that it made his chest ache with renewed grief and gratitude. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister. "Took the job yet? The princess seems like a keeper to me." Jack smiled, watching as Sarah now sat beside Ethan on the swing, the two of them deep in conversation. Whatever they were discussing had his son nodding seriously, then breaking into a wide grin. In 3 days, she had somehow navigated the complex territory of becoming friends with his child without overstepping or trying too hard, a balance Jack had seen many adults fail to achieve. The job offer was still on the table. The contract sat unsigned in the folder on his desk, the generous salary and benefits package only part of what made it appealing. The real draw was the chance to build something new, professionally and personally. With a woman who had seen him at his most vulnerable and still believed in his strength. When Sarah and Ethan came inside, flushed from the cool air and exertion, Jack had made his decision. "Who wants hot chocolate?" he asked, already moving toward the kitchen. "Me," Ethan shouted predictably, racing ahead to claim his favorite mug. Sarah hung back, studying Jack's face with those perceptive blue eyes. "Everything okay?" "Better than okay," he said quietly. "I'm going to take the job." Her professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine joy before she composed herself. "You won't regret it. The company needs your expertise, Anne." Jack shook his head, cutting her off gently. "I'm not taking it for the company. Or for the salary. Or even because of Anna's letter." "Then why?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack glanced toward the kitchen where Ethan was carefully arranging marshmallows on the counter, then back to Sarah. "Because I want to see what happens next. With the job. With Seattle. He took a breath. With us. The smile that bloomed across her face was worth every moment of uncertainty. I'd like that, she said simply. 6 months later, as Jack stood on the balcony of his new Seattle apartment watching Ethan and Sarah plant flowers in the community garden below, he marveled at how completely his life had transformed since that night at O'Malley's. The new company was thriving under Sarah's visionary leadership and his technical expertise. Ethan was flourishing at his new school, his health issues finally under control with the specialized care at the Children's Hospital. And Sarah. Sarah had become something he'd never expected to find again. Not a replacement for Anna, no one could ever be that, but a new chapter, a different kind of love that honored the past while embracing the future. When she looked up and waved, the spring sunlight turning her hair to gold, Jack felt the last pieces of his heart unlock. Tonight, over dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first real date, he would give her the small velvet box hidden in his desk drawer. Not because of promises or obligations or complicated histories, but because some connections were worth risking everything for. As if reading his thoughts, Sarah smiled up at him. The same smile that had first caught his attention across a crowded bar when she'd leaned in and whispered those life-changing words, "Tabs on me if you take me home." Sometimes, Jack reflected, the most unexpected propositions led to the most beautiful destinations. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that second chances come in unexpected ways. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you.